I think he saw it in his feed, in his Twitter news feed, retweeted into his feed by, because he only follows 45 people, I think, yes. Into his news feed by one of the people he follows. And he doesn't sit there and research who the original tweeter was or anything like that. By the way, Jada Franson has a little Twitter verified symbol next to her name as well. So saw that, saw the content, was interested in the content, and thought this is something that people need to know about.
Is this a shift? I mean, you might have heard Barbara there saying that in diplomatic circles in Washington, they think this is a new low.
Yeah. Well, the swamp,
is that right?
The swamp will always find a way to criticise President Trump for anything he does. Let's analyse this in real terms. You know, we've had breathless coverage of this now since it happened. The whole political establishment and media establishment going into overdrive, hysterical over this, right? Over tweets. An emergency debate in Parliament.
Yes, but he has 45 million followers.
An emergency debate in Parliament? Are we that scared nowadays of these fringe organisations that you have to have an emergency debate in Parliament? The Archbishop of Canterbury, the Prime Minister, the Home Secretary? I mean, these are things that you do in a time of war. They're not things you do on the back of a couple of tweets. If Downing Street was a serious operation, and I'm telling you now, inside Downing Street, they are not taken seriously by people in DC, the people working in Downing Street now. If it was a serious operation, they would have gone to their ambassador and said, please would you raise with the President, with the White House, the fact that we wholeheartedly do not like these people, and that is dangerous to do.
Well, the ambassador has raised it as an issue, so we know that that has happened.
In addition to everyone else.
We know that has happened.
In addition to everyone else.
But you're saying that the number 10 is not taken as a serious operation, but then by the same token, the President of the United States has roundly criticised the British Prime Minister on Twitter. I mean, this is...
And by the way,
not
so
a diplomatic
he should.
way to behave. By the same token, if you're saying it should be done at an ambassadorial level,
the rule book,
shouldn't that be similarly?
The rule book went out the window on November the 8th, 2016, when the American people decided they wanted a bombast in government, right? They wanted this. They saw it during the campaign and they elected it, right? So for him to call out the British Prime Minister, when the British Prime Minister is using this event to virtue signal, and you have a situation where we need a trade deal with the United States. We need that relationship. In a post-Brexit world, that is imperative. And she is flushing that down the toilet to virtue signal over a couple of tweets?
Well, why didn't
she pick up the phone?
The government is saying today that the special relationship is still very important. I mean, they've been clear about that.
President Trump will not view it like that at this juncture. And he has not viewed it like that for some months now. The British political establishment, I guarantee you, is using this, calculatedly using this, to try and drive a wedge, because they don't want Brexit to happen. Theresa May, don't forget, was a Remainer. And I think this is an intentional way of trying to halt that.
But this row is not about Brexit fundamentally.
But it's going to be.
It's because he retweeted something that is unpleasant material,
and
it's inflammatory, it's racist.
Well,
so the argument starts from the starting point of he sent out 3
just made a
retweets.
misstatement.
So
you made a misstatement just now.
Why did he do that, and what was he trying to say by that? And isn't it inflammatory?
You call it inflammatory. 2 out of 3 of those tweets we know are factual things that happened and the world needs to know about them. By the way, the Britain First of the world wouldn't exist if the mainstream media did their jobs in covering this stuff, in covering homosexuals getting thrown off buildings, in covering
We've covered that story. I remember doing it.
In fact, good. And all of your colleagues need to be across these things in covering the fact that Christians in the Middle East are so heavily persecuted. And we scarcely hear about that. Every day we hear a story about President Trump's tweets, but we don't hear a story every day about real problems in that region due to radical Islam. We're scared of offending Muslims, but most Muslims aren't radical Islamists. They want this dealt with the same way. And President Trump putting those things up there, to, like you said, to his 45 million people.
That most Muslims are decent, law-abiding people like everybody, most people watching this programme.
BBC polling,
the point.
BBC polling did this in 2009. They showed amongst 16 to 24-year-olds in the United Kingdom, 40% of them said they wanted Sharia law in the United Kingdom. We don't talk about that. Why don't we talk about that? And why don't we address those issues? You see, the Britain First, they get oxygen from you guys not talking about those issues. You did that poll in 2009 and you haven't done a single follow-up since. It's been nearly 10 years. I want Britain First gone the same way that, you know, I think every serious person doesn't want them part of the political debate, but they exist because there's a vacuum created by the lack of coverage on these issues.
Do you think a state visit should happen? The President Trump should at some point come to this country on a state visit?
I don't think it matters. I really don't think that's interesting to anyone. I don't think it's interesting to us. I don't think it's interesting for him. I just don't care about that. What I care about, by the way, is how much airtime we're spending debating tweets. Meanwhile, we're not talking about serious issues that are going, and not just radical Islam, by the way. We're not talking about how manufacturing across the United Kingdom is down. We're not talking about our fisheries. We're not talking about serious problems that everyday people have. We're talking about tweets. And I don't mean this as a personal attack on you or what you do. What I mean to say is that these organizations, these fringe organizations, same with the EDL and all these guys, they get oxygen because you guys you just obsess over the smallest of things. This issue is done.
Well, I mean, the topics that you just listed there do get talked about, and they do get covered. But also, you're saying. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you're saying it's a fuss about nothing. Yeah. It's just something on social media. I'm trying to paraphrase what you're saying.
I think you're right.
But you say just social media. But social media now, we know this is a different world from 10 years ago. It is an extraordinarily powerful tool. President Trump has 45 million followers, and we know, rightly or wrongly, lots of people get all their news, all their information just from following social media. Sure. So don't we all have a responsibility to be more responsible with it? Because that might be one person's only source of information.
Are you saying that people are not smart enough to filter information for themselves on social media? That they don't look at those videos and go, oh, okay, that's pretty bad, but I know all Muslims aren't like that. You think people, what, just flip like that and go, oh, that's everyone then? You're not giving people due credit. People out there are smart. They see their communities. They know what's going on. They have friends. They have work colleagues that are Muslims. They know that. But the issue itself, we're playing the ball. We're playing the man, not the ball here, right? We can agree that Jada Franson and the mosque invasions and all that stuff is desperately, desperately bad stuff. But the issues are really not dealt with. The problem with radical Islam...
I wrote a book about this this year. Desperately bad stuff, to use your phrase, did he?
What? Well, like I said at the beginning of this interview, I'm sure he didn't do any due diligence on who this verified Twitter user was.
Right, exactly. But that takes us back to the beginning of our conversation, doesn't it? People all day have been saying, well, actually, he's the president of the most powerful nation on earth. Maybe he really should be doing due diligence. He's not being responsible with his use of social media.
And that's a fine conversation, and it's a great statement to make, and there you've made it. And that's where the issue ends. Do you see what I mean? How many times can you keep going over this? How many front pages do we need? How many commentary pieces do we need? How many statements in Parliament do we need? How many mayors of London do we need coming out, robust, saying, by the way, Sadiq Khan saying he's not welcome in the United Kingdom. Sadiq Khan does not speak for the United Kingdom.
He's the mayor of London.
He's the mayor of London.
Democratically elected.
He does not speak for the United Kingdom.
Big Man Tyrone here. Make sure to subscribe to the wicked awesome Robin Hood UKIP YouTube website. He exposes the leftist crops on the British brainwashing corporation. Nice.